In this tutorial, we'll explore how Maia, our powerful new Agentic AI, can dramatically boost our productivity. We're going to build a custom connector to an API using just the API documentation link. We will be giving Maia full control, passing over documentation and guidance, which will be enough to ensure that Maia connects and configures a custom connector to an external data source completely on its own. It's worth mentioning that Maia might behave slightly differently on each run, and multiple instances of a similar request may end up slightly different. This is just one example of how Maia might interpret this request. In this example, we will be acting on behalf of the retail and e-commerce company Greenwave, which ships products to customers nationwide. To proactively manage order delays, damaged goods and customer satisfaction, Greenwave wants to enrich its order data with forecasted weather conditions at each customer's delivery location and date. So in this tutorial, we will be using Maia to set up a custom connector for weatherapi.com, which offers a free trial that retrieves 3-day hourly forecasts. Traditionally, in the Data Productivity Cloud, it would take a few minutes to set up a custom connector. Maia can now do this for us in a matter of seconds. You can use Maia to create a custom connector for any API that has a publicly viewable documentation page. When you provide a link to the documentation, Maia reads the content of that page as well as any directly linked subpages under the same path. So let's see what this looks like in practice. First of all, we need to navigate to the Custom Connectors section of the Data Productivity Cloud. We do this by clicking the Custom Connectors icon on the left-hand side, and then we click on the Custom Connectors button. In the Custom Connectors section of the Data Productivity Cloud, we are greeted by Maia, where we can paste in the documentation link for any REST API source. In our case, we will paste in the link to the Weather API. Maia will now build the connector out for us in real time. As you can see, Maia has found 11 endpoints, including Get Alerts, Get Astronomy, Get Current Weather, and Get Forecast Weather, as well as many others. We need the Get Forecast Weather endpoint, so let's select that and continue. Maia automatically detects whether an API requires authentication. If authentication is required, Maia prompts you to choose the appropriate method, as we can see here. We need a REST API key to authenticate against. You'll likely find the API key in your account dashboard after signing up, often under API or developer settings. So I'm going to paste in my API key, and then Maia is going to be able to use that REST API profile as a result. Once it is finished setting up, we can look at what Maia has made. If we want, we can make edits. In this case, I know that Maia has added some optional query parameters that we don't need. API and alerts are the parameters that we won't need, so I will delete these using the bin icon to the right. Apart from these small adjustments, I'm happy with how the connector has been set up, and the response that has been returned looks good. So I will save this connector by clicking the Save button. So now that we have set up a successful connection to the endpoint, we can integrate this connector into a pipeline. I will navigate back to my branch canvas, where we can see an orchestration pipeline is already half set up. As part of our example, we need to import some data from a Google Sheet, iterate over each row of data, and use our new custom component to call an API based on some of the values in each row. However, this is not necessarily how you would use your own custom component. You may need to use it only once in your pipeline. You can see in this example, we are importing our customer data, which includes the latitude and longitude of each customer's business location. Then we have an iterator component that has been attached to run an orchestration component called API call. The iterator component is running through each row in the sheet and assigning the value in the longitude and latitude columns to their own variables. It is then running the orchestration pipeline called API call. Inside of this orchestration pipeline, I'm going to add the custom connector we just asked Maia to configure for us. I'll do this by pressing the Add Component button and search for the component we just saved. We will first set up the Connect Expandable section of the component by specifying the Get Forecast Weather data source. Next, we will select API key as our authentication type, specify key as the key, and adding the secret of that key via the secrets manager. After this, we can move on to the Configure Expandable section. In this use case, we only need to specify the query parameters. This is where we will reference those variables we created via the iterator component to specify the longitude and latitude of the location we want weather data for. We can also specify the language we need the response to be in and how many days of forecast we want. So now we can move on to the Destination Expandable section, where we will set the destination as Snowflake. This gives us more options to set up. In my case, I will leave my warehouse, database, and schema settings on environment defaults. I will set the load strategy as append, so that each time this component runs, it doesn't replace the table, it just appends to it. The stage platform will be set to Snowflake, and the internal stage type will be set to user. So now, if we go back to the main customer profiles orchestration pipeline, we should be able to validate and then run this pipeline. If you are following along, you may find that the pipeline takes a while to finish calling the API for each row in the table. In which case, we have added the final table that you end up with after running the pipeline as a downloadable asset below this video. As you can see, the final Weather API data provides an extensive 3-day weather history for our customers' locations. So now, this will allow GreenWave to enrich its order data with forecasted weather conditions, enabling proactive management of potential issues such as order delays and damaged goods. Maia has just saved us doing a bunch of manual tasks setting up a custom connector, giving us considerable productivity gain, potentially saving huge amounts of manual effort. If you want to learn more about Maia and its capabilities, go to matillion.com/Maia.